Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another one of the Chamber's virtual fireside chats. Today, I'm Catherine Holt. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce, and today I'm joined by Dan Dagg, President of H2. And in the handy dandy chamber directory, H2 says that it is a company that uses research, strategy, creativity, and leading edge digital technology to help you reach your market and your goals. So welcome, Dan.
Hi, everyone.
So I have a series of questions for you, Dan, about your line of business, how you can help people in these very odd times that we're in for many of our members. So right now, many businesses are severely reduced or closed. So in that kind of strange circumstance, how has the purpose of communication and marketing changed?
So I'd say that, the purpose of marketing and communications hasn't changed, that it's always been about building relationships with your customers and your prospects and moving them down through the path to purchase. I'd say that the emphasis of where those people are at in that path to purchase has changed. And so we just need to talk to them differently, but it's as important, if not more important, to communicate and market effectively today.
So more important to do it, but if they're actually closed, how would they go about? What are they doing? What's the right approach to take? If their business is closed, you can't actually walk in the door and engage, buy something, services are not being offered, door is locked. How do they go about it?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And so my first point is that everybody's always selling, right? You're always selling. You may not have a product that can be consumed today, but you're selling your brand, your vision, and your attributes. So you're always on, right? But today it's more about, in many cases, it's about maintaining share of mind with consumers, keeping your product or service residing in a place above your competitors. And it's about building desire and demand for your product when it can sell, right? So we need to kind of keep in mind that although we all need to work together through this, in a stagnant market, or even worse, in a declining market, we're in what we would call a zero-sum game, which means that every point you win is going to come at the expense of someone else's. So we need to remain top of mind. We need to build share of mind, which would lead to share of heart with our consumers, and that ultimately will accelerate our recovery when you can sell your product.
So when you talk about share of mind and share of heart, to me, that sounds like you're not talking about a transaction. You're not talking about go out and get your hair cut, go out and have a meal at our restaurant, go out and buy a new shirt. It's not that kind of transaction that you're talking about. So can you talk a little bit more about the concept of share of heart, share of mind that you're referring to?
Sure. So we all know that consumers are driven and influenced in their purchase decision by the logical and the emotional, right? So I always say that all things being equal, someone will buy from a company that they like or trust, right? The all things being equal is a really important part, because I think a lot of businesses, and I've done this for many, many years, I go ask a prospective client, why should I buy from you? And they say, well, because I'm local. And I say, that's not good enough. Okay, I think local is important, but you need to be able to provide at least close to a parity product. So I've kind of lost my train of thought. What was the question again?
Share of heart, share of
Share of
mind.
mind. Okay, so the logical things are going to be the quality of the product, the price of the product. Is it accessible to purchase? The emotional side is this a company that I know, that I like, that I trust, that shares the same values as I do? So now in difficult times, our values become very, very evident. So now is the time that we as businesses need to exhibit good behavior. We need to exhibit care for our staff, our customers, our community. And if we sort of go do that and share that with the world, then we're going to do better.
Yeah, and I think that is something that companies are either focusing on or they already have inherent in their values. But you do see a lot of companies, especially locally, stepping up and trying to make a mark in a good way with regard to volunteering their services or their product, or changing what they do and how they do it, so that they can be seen to respond both to their customers, but as you say, on a more value-based proposition, be seen to care about what's going on in our community and contribute in ways that they are able to, even if it's not a money-making transaction at this point. So is that the kind of thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, people, well, and there's research that proves it, that, you know, that people want to hear stories of companies helping people, right? And it's going to increase their likelihood of doing business with that company. So this is like the perfect time to be demonstrating that, right? Because there's an abundance of opportunity to do it, but it's not necessarily easy, right? This is a time when true character comes to the surface, right? So I think it's about doing business in a manner with integrity, keeping safety at the forefront of everything that you do, and not playing and I'll mention it a lot, but don't play a short-term game here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So for some of these companies that I've seen locally, you know, doing everything from making masks, making hand sanitizer, delivering product, contributing staff time, or financially making meals that can be used by healthcare workers or homeless. If you're a restaurant, there's getting to be more and more examples. How do they market that, or how do they get that to be known so that people understand their values and their contribution without it looking self-serving?
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, let's make sure that what you are doing isn't self-serving. Guys.
Well, it is in the sense that you want people to know that you care about the community and you exist, and you are doing it on one level for the heart and mind share that you were talking about. So it's kind of a delicate dance.
It is. So, like I always say, you know, the first, all meaningful and lasting change first starts within. All right. So that you become and what you think about. So I always start with communications internally first. So and I think it's really important. So when we talk marketing and communications, we're not just talking about advertising, newspaper, radio, and that sort of stuff. We're talking about something much bigger than that. And we're talking about communicating with our staff. We're talking about communicating with our suppliers. We're talking about communicating with our customers, and then our prospects, and then the community at large. Okay, so that's kind of the order in which you start the communications. So let's make sure first that we've communicated and are taking care of our staff, because ultimately they are going to be our brand ambassadors, and anything that we want to radiate out has got to come through them. So I always look at and start first within. Do your staff understand it and value it? Can you communicate it? Is your store or your office aligned with that? So have you addressed point of sale, window signs? And then you look at every touch point with the consumer or a potential consumer. And there's thousands of those that occur on a regular basis, and they're low and no cost. It's how you answer the phone, the clothes you wear, then it radiates further out into your content strategy. What's the messaging on your website? Is it consistent and radiate out through social media, which, as we know, is free? And then as a last resort, sort of only after all that stuff is covered, which is all really low and no cost, do we begin to look at paid media.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that question?
Yeah. And so the other thing that's odd at this time and does reinforce the importance of what you said, start with the people who are most knowledgeable about your business and most invested in it, your staff, and radiate out from that. But are we in a strange state of mind with regard to the general consumer? Are people even paying attention? Like, first of all, they feel a lot of people are spending a lot of time at home. Yeah, they're consuming a lot of media, but transactions, purchases are very strangely altered in this period of time. Are people paying attention if you're putting all this effort into marketing? State of heart and mind.
Yeah, I would say, that consumers are probably hyper aware of what's going on now with business and paying more attention than they've ever paid. And you just think of some of your own examples. Okay, you venture out from your house and you go to a grocery store or a hardware store because you need something or whatever, and you're nervous about it, and you scrutinize every step of the process from that 6 foot apart lineup into it. Are the tills safe and all of that sort of stuff? And then you go home and you go, whew, I did that. And then you share it with your family and your friends, and you actually spend a whole bunch of time talking about an outing to a grocery store that you would have never thought twice about. So people are hyper aware of what businesses are doing and that sort of thing. And I'd say that we're in a shift right now. So we went from, immediate shock and protectionism, right? Just cocoon, load your pantry. But we're now realizing that this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, that we need to continue to do business and engage with the world. And so consumerism is returning, right? Slowly.
Yeah. And on that note, will consumers have changed? How do you think consumers will have changed coming out of this? Will we all, the kind of two theories, we'll just be thrilled to go right back to business as usual and just resume as we were and be so grateful and thankful that we have the opportunity to just go buy and do the things that we always did? Or the other view that this has made people stop and reevaluate a lot of things about their own life and consumerism and how they interact with the world and the businesses that they rely on. In your early observation, maybe an unfair question because we're so early in this, but any thoughts about how you think how consumer behavior might be changed by this experience?
Yeah, I think we are in the midst of a significant and permanent shift in consumer behavior. I don't think you put this genie back in the bottle and go back to normal. One, even if, let's say, restrictions are lifted and people can move around, the economy has been dealt a devastating blow, and it will be a long time before the majority of the population have the kind of disposable income that they had in the past. I would also say that it's probably evoked a shift in consumer values, and the Gucci's and the $1,000 sneakers are probably less important than they were before. I think just in terms of how people do business, I think it's given online shopping and delivery and things like that a boost that I don't know that we're going to go back from that. And so, yeah, things are different. And I think that, values will be more important. Conspicuous consumption will be less. In difficult financial times, the small indulgence becomes more important, which I think is, a big deal now. A small indulgence now is going through the Tim Hortons drive-through for people. I mean, that's a big evening outing for them, right? So,
Yeah,
that's
it's true.
the things have changed, and they've
Yeah.
changed permanently, right?
Yeah. So you're trying to, as getting back to our local business, local chamber member, you're trying to keep your reputation intact and maintain a share of people's mind and heart, but also you're trying to evolve and figure out what it is that they're going to respond to at this time. So is it just a matter of continuous interaction, or any advice on how you keep modifying yourself and your message? Okay, let me reword that. Better to keep your message standard. This is our business. This is what we stand for. We've always been this way. We'll always be this way. Or is it time to say we're moving with the times, we're changing, what we did last week might not be what we do this week?
Yeah, I think it's important that we sort of differentiate. So companies need to be looking and adapting at how to serve their customers, not sell their customers. Okay. The difference being, I make ashtrays and I sell them, and that's all I do. And I run out and do you want to buy an ashtray? Do you want to buy an ashtray? Do you want to buy an ashtray? No, I don't. Well, I've got ashtrays. So that's selling, and that's not going to serve you well. Serving our customers is understanding that unique relationship that we have with them, their needs and wants, and how we can better fulfill that. So I think every business now needs to be re-examining what it is that they do for their customers. And every customer that you have becomes more and more valuable. So in difficult economic times, the concept of intercept marketing was introduced. And that's basically, it's if you have a relationship and customers coming into your store and they fit a certain demographic and profile and that sort of stuff, then you need to ask yourselves, what else can I sell them while they're in here? You right?
Yeah.
So do you remember when Starbucks used to be a coffee company? Right? Well, and McDonald's used to sell hamburgers. So, they're both going at each other's business. You see more chips and pop sold through like Home Depots and Ronas and stuff like that. So I say, broaden your view with respect to what it is you do, right? Focus on the consumer, how you can serve them and generate an income off of that.
Yeah. So we have heard a lot from our members about how they're changing their business, either what they do or how they do it, along the lines of what you're talking about. Though that's both the service and the story behind it that they should be telling. And do you have any examples that you can give us of people you think are doing that well?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people doing it Well, I'll tell you, I think one of the greatest examples that's out there right now, and it may not be hyper local, but it's relevant to all of us, is the work that Destination British Columbia is doing right now, right? Our provincial tourism organization, in which they're in the weird scenario where they not only can they not sell, but they have to actually encourage people not to travel, right? They're going out there, don't travel. It's not safe. It's not good for anyone. But I think they're doing a tremendous job in, and this is where it's important. That's why I wanted to get into introduce the concept of our audiences as being our staff, our suppliers, our stakeholders. So they're doing a great job communicating and working with their stakeholders. And then with the consumer, we've always said they've had a hashtag Explore BC, right? Well, they've repurposed that Explore BC later. Okay. They're doing a great job by showing images of their product is safe and beautiful, but come see us later. Okay, that's building up demand for our product. There's some local stores that are doing it, local destinations too. Oak Bay Tourism is doing a great job. Follow them on social and you'll see beautiful pictures and stuff like that. There's some things like there's a hair salon down on Government Street that's just showing before and after photos of haircuts and beautiful
home haircuts or their haircuts.
Yeah. Restaurants repurposing, doing grab and go. So there's some good examples of people doing it out there, right?
Yeah, well, my favorite that I came across last weekend, and I have a new favorite all the time, so this is just the passing favorite of the moment. Topsoil, that is a urban farming organization, tiny company, just started up a year or two ago and has had huge success selling greens to downtown restaurants. Obviously, their market dried up, so now they're selling their round mini gardens, micro gardens, I think they're calling them, with greens growing in them to residential consumers. So they'll deliver these things that they've been growing beautiful greens in for the restaurant market to your house, and you can enjoy that for the next 6 weeks. All the work done. Don't have to plant, don't have to get the soil ready, don't have to water the things until they're growing. It's just there for you. So I just thought that was a very smart pivot to figure out how to sell what they do to a whole different demographic of people anxious for something new in their backyard and a good dinner.
I think that's a great idea. And, when you look at some of the categories that are performing well, you get an indication of what's going to happen in sales by looking at the frequency of discussion and posts in social media. So DIY projects going through the roof right now, right? And just as an internal survey, right, I have a staff of 15, 5 of them started home renovation projects during this time, right? I mean, it's a third of people, and when I ask around, everybody's doing it, right? There are opportunities, and one of the things I wanted to sort of make sure that people got from this is, so we need to do business, okay? Business is what pays the bills, our staff, and keeps our community great. We need to be cautious not to be seen as Machiavellian or too self-serving. So you got to be there, but consumers don't want to be sold right now, right? And that's a dangerous thing. So they think it's inappropriate. Sales are inappropriate, but convenience and safe transactions
And service.
The consumers want to hear about that.
Okay, well, that was very useful advice. Any final thoughts? That was a good wrap-up thought, but any other final words of advice you want to leave us with, Dan?
Yeah, maybe just a couple things. So, anybody who's interested in the stuff that I've talked about, y- you can get more information on it. So I had my team put together a white paper. It's called "Swimming Underwater: How to Market During COVID." So that's available if you want a copy of that. There's some really good stuff in it. You can go to our website, which is h2accelerator.com, and request a copy. We'd be happy to send it to you. It'll be of value. And then my sort of advice would be to people is don't sit back. You know, it's I don't want to be the harbinger of doom here, but the reality is that everyone's not going to survive this. We know that. So you need to work hard, even though you're discouraged. You need to get up, get dressed, and do the things that you should be doing. Our best changes day to day, so be okay with that. You don't need to be the best or the fastest, right? You just need to be a little bit better and a little bit faster than the worst person in your category, right?
And be there.
And be
Repeat.
there. Be
Repeat.
there. Get up, repeat, get up, and do it again every day. It's going to be a long haul, but you know, work and don't be afraid to innovate and try new things. Okay, this is the perfect time to try new things. Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Great advice, Dan. Yeah, I had a quick breeze through the white paper because you gave me an early copy, and I highly recommend it as a good summary of all the advice that Dan has provided today, and easy to understand and follow and put into practice. So go to the website and ask for one of those from H2 Accelerator. Dan Dagg, president of H2 Accelerator, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks
Bye.
for everybody for watching and listening today.